He uttered 2 silent words. "I'm sorry." Susan's hand clenched violently on the cold metal door handle. The beep behind the door suddenly intensified, a frantic, desperate rhythm. Footsteps approached from behind her, swift and purposeful. Her heart pounded, expecting his lawyers, no doubt clutching the damned marriage contract. The contract they'd been trying to serve her for weeks. The one that would legally bind her to a lifetime of invasive medical procedures. The one that would save his life, yes, but at the cost of her very soul, her freedom, her sense of self. Hello everyone, welcome to The Last Storyteller. Before we continue, kindly support us by clicking the subscription button so we can deliver to you more intriguing billionaire stories. The sterile hospital corridor hummed with the cold, unforgiving rhythm of life and death. 6 months after everything fell apart, Susan Torres stood fixed, her gaze locked on the closed door of room 407. A door she'd sworn she'd never, ever walk through again. Behind it, Marcus Cardwell was dying. The doctor's words from 20 minutes ago still echoed, a chilling replay in Susan's mind. He has maybe 3 days left. His heart is failing faster than we predicted. You're still the only compatible donor. Miss Torres, I know what happened between you two, but... Susan had slammed the phone down. Now, her hand trembled, hovering inches from the door handle. She hated herself for coming. Hated Marcus more for making her care enough to even consider it. Through the small observation window, the sight of him twisted her gut. Marcus Cardwell, the ruthless billionaire, the man who'd fired her the moment she discovered his unforgivable betrayal, he was a ghost. His once commanding presence, replaced by a gaunt, pale shadow hooked up to a tangle of machines. The steady beep, beep, beep was the failing rhythm of his heart. His eyes were closed. He didn't know she was there. She could leave. She should leave. Let him face the ultimate consequence of treating people like disposable assets, like their very DNA was his to test and analyze without consent. Let him die with the cold satisfaction of his empire, isolated in his ruthlessness. But then, as if sensing her presence, his eyes fluttered open. Across the silent, betraying glass, across the chasm of 6 months of betrayal and scorching anger, their gazes met. And Marcus Cardwell, the man who had never once apologized for anything, who had built a colossal tech empire on cold calculations and brutal decisions, did something Susan had never witnessed before. He mouthed 2 silent words. "I'm sorry." Susan's hand clenched violently on the cold metal door handle. The beep, beep, beep behind the door suddenly intensified, a frantic, desperate rhythm. Footsteps approached from behind her, swift and purposeful. Her heart pounded, expecting his lawyers, no doubt clutching the damned marriage contract. The contract they'd been trying to serve her for weeks. The one that would legally bind her to a lifetime of invasive medical procedures. The one that would save his life, yes, but at the cost of her very soul, her freedom, her sense of self. The one she'd torn up and thrown in their faces 3 times already. "Miss Torres." The voice was soft, laced with a familiar, chilling authority. Not a lawyer. Marcus's mother. Catherine Cardwell. The formidable matriarch. The steel magnolia who had, for 2 years, consistently referred to Susan as the help. Now, Catherine stood before her, her usually unyielding eyes brimming with genuine tears. "Please." Catherine's voice, though soft, was laced with desperation. "I know what my son did was unforgivable. I know he violated your trust in the worst way possible. Believe me, I know. But he's still my child. And if there's any part of you that ever cared about him, even a little, you the truth, The whole truth about why he tested your DNA. Because what do you think happened? You don't know half of it. Just then, the machine behind the door screamed, a continuous, piercing alarm. Nurses, their faces etched with urgency, rushed past them, flooding into the room. A doctor barked orders. Susan's world narrowed to that door. Walk away, let him die with his secrets, his unforgivable truth buried with him. Or walk through that door, risk her heart, her very being, and discover what truth could possibly justify what he had done. What desperate truth could Marcus possibly reveal that would justify his betrayal? And with the machine screaming, is Susan already too late to hear it? This is just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button if you're hooked, like this video to show your support, and comment below. Where are you watching from? The frantic flatline scream from inside room 407 ripped through the sterile air, momentarily silencing Catherine's desperate plea. Susan froze, her heart hammering against her ribs, a chilling mix of dread and a terrible, morbid curiosity. Was this it? Was Marcus simply gone? A nurse, her face grim, flung the door open. He's crashing. Get the crash cart. Susan didn't think. Her hand, which had been frozen inches from the handle, instinctively pushed through the opening door. Susan, no. Catherine cried, reaching for her, but Susan was already inside. The room was a maelstrom of controlled chaos. Doctors and nurses swarmed Marcus's bed, their movements precise, urgent. The machines shrieked. Susan's eyes darted to Marcus. His eyes were wide open now, fixed on her, but glazed, unfocused. His chest rose and fell in shallow, gasping breaths. A doctor looked up, saw Susan. Miss Torres, get out of here. We need space. But Marcus, with a surge of impossible strength, lifted a trembling hand, reaching for her. "Susan, please." His voice was a raw, rattling whisper, barely audible over the alarms. "The truth." Susan stumbled back, hitting the wall. The sheer vulnerability of the man she hated, the terror in his dying eyes, it fractured her resolve. This wasn't the ruthless billionaire, this was just a man, fighting for a last breath. The doctor, seeing Marcus's focus, waved a hand at Susan. "Fine. Just stay out of the way." He turned back to the monitors. "His heart rate is plummeting again. We're losing him." Catherine appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "What's happening?" "He needs the transplant." "Now," the doctor yelled, desperation creeping into his voice. "He's not going to last the 3 days." Susan watched, helpless, as Marcus's body convulsed slightly. His gaze, still trying to find hers, pleaded for something she wasn't sure she could give. Then, his mother, Catherine, pushed past the doctors. She ignored their protests, grabbing Marcus's hand, her voice a fierce, desperate whisper for him alone. "Marcus, tell her. Tell her the truth, son." Marcus gasped, a thin, rattling sound. His eyes locked onto Susan's. "The fire, the hospital, my sister." He choked. A nurse quickly pushed oxygen to his face. Susan frowned, confused. "What fire? What sister? You don't have a sister." Catherine's eyes, filled with a fresh wave of tears, met Susan's. "He does. He did. His twin. She died because of me. Because of us." The room plunged into an eerie silence, broken only by the beeping machines. The medical team briefly paused, sensing the weight of the revelation. Susan stared at Catherine, then back at Marcus, who lay panting, exhausted. "A twin sister? He never mentioned a sister. He said he was an only child." "He believed it," Catherine whispered, her voice raw with an ancient pain. "We told him that. We lied to him. To protect him. From the pain, from the truth." "What truth?" Susan demanded, stepping closer to Marcus's bed, her own anger momentarily forgotten in the face of this astonishing, terrible confession. Marcus, gathering his strength, pulled off the oxygen mask with a shaky hand. 6 months ago, the hospital called. A genetic marker. Extremely rare. For a familial kidney disease. My twin sister had it. She died because of it. He paused, a wave of pain washing over his face. When they called, they said, a partial match. Someone with the same marker had just been identified in their system. Someone working for Grant Industries, my company. Someone I knew. Susan's blood ran cold. Her DNA. The DNA he'd secretly tested. This was why. Not for a heart. For a kidney. For a disease his dead sister had. The doctor said, it was highly likely this person was related to me. A very close match. Possibly, another twin. Marcus swallowed hard, his eyes burning with a desperate urgency. But my parents always said I was an only child. They said my twin died at birth. So I had to find out. I had to know if there was another twin. Susan whispered, utterly bewildered. Yes. Catherine stepped forward, her voice trembling. Marcus was born with a twin sister, Sarah. They were premature. The hospital caught fire. A terrible accident. In the chaos, only Marcus was identified. Sarah was presumed dead. But the hospital records, they were always incomplete. Conflicting. We were too grief-stricken to question it then. We just buried our daughter and focused on saving Marcus. Marcus forced himself to continue. The doctor said if this match was real, it meant Sarah might have lived. That she might have been misidentified, separated in the chaos, placed with another family. And that if she had this genetic marker, she would be dying. Susan staggered back, hitting the wall again. The pieces clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. So you tested my DNA, because you thought I might be your long-lost twin sister? Marcus nodded, a single tear escaping the corner of his eye. I needed to know. I couldn't bear the thought of losing another sister to that disease. Not without trying to find her. To save her. A horrifying realization dawned on Susan. And when the results came back, you fired me. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. Because I wasn't your sister, was I? Marcus squeezed his eyes shut, a spasm of raw pain contorting his face. The results. They were complicated. It wasn't a direct match for a twin. But it was a match for a child, a girl, who had been put up for adoption around the same time and place as the fire. A girl with the same rare genetic marker. A girl who had no known birth parents in the system. Susan. Catherine stepped forward, her voice thick with emotion. You were adopted, weren't you? From that same city. Around that same time. Susan's mind reeled. She was adopted. She had no knowledge of her biological parents. She had a vague, unsettling memory of an old, tattered stuffed rabbit she'd carried as a very young child, a rabbit her adoptive mother always said came with her. A rabbit that Marcus's late sister, Sarah, was said to have loved. The room, the machines, the frantic nurses faded into a blur. Susan felt a profound, chilling sense of vertigo. No, Susan whispered, her voice hollow. No, this can't be happening. Marcus opened his eyes, his gaze locking onto hers with a desperate intensity. I fired you because the results showed you were a match for my niece. Sarah's child. My sister's daughter. And when I couldn't find Sarah, when I knew she must be gone, that meant her daughter, my niece, also carried the deadly gene. And I knew. I knew if I didn't save her, I'd lose you too. Just like I lost Sarah. A new, deafening alarm blared from Marcus's machines. The doctor screamed, he's going into cardiac arrest. Get out. Miss Torres, please. You're the only one who can save him. Susan stared at the man she had loved, hated, and now understood. His deepest secret wasn't a betrayal, it was a desperate attempt to find family, to save someone he already considered his own. But the price of saving him was the marriage contract. The one that would save his life, but cost him his company. If you were Susan, what will you have done? Tell us in the comments section. Click the subscription button if you will like to see what happened next. Also tell us where you are watching from.